Hi everyone, my name is Catriona Swanson and I'm a transport planner at Arup, leading on walking cycling across the North West and Yorkshire region. Today I'm going to be giving a few thoughts about walking and cycling infrastructure, particularly in light of COVID-19. For me, some of the silver linings of this awful situation are that many people have discovered or rediscovered cycling, and that people are shopping more locally and using their local high streets more. We're currently facing a number of crises. While coronavirus is dominating the headlines, the climate emergency hasn't gone away. And while air quality improved at the beginning of lockdown, it's rapidly deteriorating as the economy reopens and the cars come back. Speaking in Parliament earlier this year, Chris Boardman said, "Pick a crisis and you'll probably find cycling as a solution." Coronavirus wasn't on our radar at that point, and Chris was talking about climate, air pollution, and health more generally. But as usual, he was absolutely right, and walking and cycling are a key part of the government's strategy to enable people to travel safely, reopen the economy, and build back better. So now, more than ever, we really need to step up several gears and start delivering the right infrastructure in the right places as quickly as possible. Unlike the climate and air quality emergencies, COVID-19 has actually led to some relatively fast action on the ground in the UK, including pop-up cycleways in Leicester being delivered at the rate of a mile a day, and lots of trial-modal filters springing up in the forward-thinking London boroughs. There really does seem to be the recognition that in most councils that fast and meaningful action needs to be taken, and we have more political will for enabling walking and cycling than ever before. Following the publication of statutory guidance from the government, as well as funding to deliver, we should hopefully see many more schemes implemented over the summer. What I found really interesting about the guidance from the DfT is that they recognise that cycleways on main roads are not necessarily the answer here. In normal times, they're expensive, controversial, and take a long time to deliver. The DfT has recognised that even pop-up cycleways using bolt-down infrastructure are tricky to deliver safely and quickly, particularly at junctions. As a result, the DfT have advised that the quickest and cheapest way of reallocating road space is point closures, including creating low traffic neighbourhoods. These are areas where all through traffic is prevented so that drivers have to use the main roads. This creates safe and attractive environments on residential streets for walking and cycling. I understand that quite a few local authorities, including Leeds City Council and Salford, where I live, are proposing a number of low traffic neighbourhoods as part of their response. And for once, I agree with the government. Low traffic neighbourhoods are the quickest and cheapest way of getting more people walking and cycling, particularly for short journeys. They also bring a lot of other benefits, including less air and noise pollution, more civilised streets where people can stop for a chat and kids can play out, and stronger local economies where people use their shops and high streets more. But how, I hear you all ask, does this link to data? Well, data has never been more important, not only to identify and prioritise schemes quickly and to ensure that we get good value for money for schemes, but also to ensure that they address the social justice issues that are exacerbated by climate change, air pollution and COVID-19. For example, we know that people on the lowest incomes, BAME communities and disabled people are hit the hardest by all of these things. There's a phrase, you count what you care about. And for a very long time, the only thing many transport planners and highway engineers have really cared about is maximising traffic flows and reducing journey times for motorists. As a result, we have a dearth of data on cycling, and particularly walking. However, we do have lots of data on things like air quality, deprivation, access to public transport and car ownership that we can use to prioritise low traffic neighbourhoods. We can also use online platforms like Commonplace, Widen My Path, and even the traffic layer in Google Maps, as well as network planning techniques to identify where there are issues with rat running or speeding, to identify where measures are needed. However, then collecting data gets really important. Although low traffic neighbourhoods are relatively quick and cheap to implement, they can be just as controversial with local residents as cycle routes on main roads. We need to make sure we're collecting the evidence to demonstrate that they work. Waltham Forest have led the way on low traffic neighbourhoods in the UK, and they've been really good at collecting data on a whole range of factors to demonstrate the benefits of the approach. This includes the increase in the amount of time spent walking and cycling, improvements in air quality, and changes in traffic levels on both the streets that have been filtered and on the main roads. The data provides a compelling argument for taking this approach, including evidence of traffic evaporation and huge improvements in air quality and health. I've heard some really good qualitative evidence about it as well, including a quote from a lady who said that the changes had doubled the time it takes her to walk to the shops. because you stop so often to talk to people. This kind of data and feedback is really important because it means we can move away from talking about these schemes as cycling schemes and frame them in terms of the things that matter to people who live there. But despite the great work done by Waltham Forest and other London boroughs, we've been really slow to roll them out in the rest of the country. As I said before, the guidance from government on COVID-19 explicitly recommends this approach, meaning that councils can legitimately tell their residents it's something that they have to do as a result of COVID-19 and that the funding can only be spent on these measures. But while councils need to act quickly and get schemes in, it's really important that measures are monitored. Unfortunately, in most cases, we won't have much data from before COVID-19, but traffic is fast returning to normal levels. Collecting data before and after schemes are implemented creates the evidence base needed to demonstrate the benefits. This evidence can then be used to make schemes permanent and roll them out across towns and cities. It also means councils can act quickly if something isn't working as planned. So, in summary, the COVID-19 epidemic has given us the funding, guidance and political will to move faster on active travel and embrace trials of measures like point closures. But it's as important as ever to monitor schemes so we make the most of this opportunity to build back better. Thanks very much for your time.